So today we have our Texas Manager Monday on leadership training for adult leaders. Our featured presenter is Mr. Marty Finsterbush, and I am accompanied by my co-host, Dr. Olga Escamilla, as well as Krista Mosier. I am your host for today, Liz Moya. And so now I'd like to present our featured speaker for today. We have Marty Finsterbush, and Marty has served on the Pennsylvania's Adult Basic and Literacy Education Interagency Coordinating Council, and having been appointed by he's been appointed by 3 different governors. During his National Institute for Literacy Fellowship in 2000, he studied adult learner involvement in all 50 states. Marty has served on the governing boards of several national and state organizations, including the National Coalition for Literacy, for 6 years as board member and 2 as president. Lubbock Literacy Action, which is known as ProLiteracy, SCALE, and Pennsylvania's State Coalition for Literacy. In 2009, he testified before the House Committee on Education and Labor's Higher Education, Lifelong Learning, and Competitiveness Subcommittee on improving our nation's adult education and literary system. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce you to Marty Finsterbush from Value USA. Welcome, Marty.
Thank you for having me here, everybody. I know your time is precious, so I'm going to jump into this. And so, where do I want to start? Thank you. So I want to add another piece about myself before we get into it. It's not that I had all these things nationally and I've done. I've come from this and looking at adult ed as a student. I was a student in a literacy program. I worked in the local program as a student coordinator and then in the program as the board member. So I've actually been working in adult ed in different levels, from local programs, state levels, and the national level. So I look at this field through the eyes of the adult learner, not administrator down. I'm looking as the clients looking up. And I just want to share that perspective to you. Okay, so what are we going to be doing here today is looking at learner leadership. So I'm going to start. The first thing here is, what is Value USA? I'm not sure how many of you have ever heard of Value USA, but it's the most unique organization all of adult ed. And why I say that is, it is the only organization on the national level run by current and former adult learners. Like myself, I've been a former student, I'm the director. My board of trustees are all individuals who went through adult ed program as students. And so that's what makes Value really unique. But we're not just a group of adult learners out there. What we're doing is, our mission is to improve adult-based education by student participation and leadership. And so what we have developed is as a research center on student involvement and literacy. No other national organization, no other group is specifically looking at how adult learners get involved in adult ed. So we are that resource. So when programs want to get their students more involved, we're there to help you. We could tell you what people have done in the past and what worked and what didn't work, so we stop reinventing the wheel over and over. The big thing about Value is we're 20 years old and we are the best kept secret on all of adult ed. We've been out there working with states, local groups, national groups for 20 years. So we have 20 years of experience of doing student involvement and leadership. And before we get into the more workshop to understand some of the things that Value is working on right this moment is that we developed the leadership training that actually teach administrators and adult learners how to work together to improve their program. So it's leadership training for adult learners, but it's program improvement for the program. And these are the slides I'm going to use today. So what you're going to see is an outlook of that training, but it will really help you get a feel of student involvement and how it affects your local program. The other things that Value's doing right now is we have an event called the Leadership Institute. And every other year, we bring student administrators together and we teach leadership skills to the adult learners and teach administrators how to work with adult learners. We can't do that this year. So what we're going to do is a webinar events. And so what we're starting off next month is we'll be seeing more stuff on it. We're actually doing a Hill briefing with the House of Representatives, where we're actually taking adult learners and experts, bringing them together to educate the House of Representatives. And then after that, we're going to be doing a webinar partner with COABE and doing an advocacy training. What does adult learners face when they become advocates for our field? And so there are a couple other things you might want to be aware of that's coming down the pike if you're interested in student involvement and leadership. Okay, with all that said, we're on dot 2, why are we here? So what I would like to do here today is expose you to student involvement and leadership and some of the things that can actually affect your program by having student involvement. And the pieces of these trainings, hopefully that you can connect with your local program. And then the next thing on here says, how will this training help me? The me was adult learners. So in this training, we explain what the adult learners are going to get out of this. By becoming student involvement, you get critical thinking skills, you get organizing skills, you get diversity training, and you get things that you can do transferable to work so you can put them on your job applications. By students getting involved, it helps them be able to work and get jobs by having experience by working in a literacy program or working with their program beyond just being a student sitting in the classroom. The other piece of this is, how is this going to help your program? And when we go through this training today, you can see by having students working in your program, how it will impact your program. It will impact your recruitment, it will impact your retention rates. It could even impact your resources coming into your program. And this training we do is normally a 2-day training. And so I'm just going to expose you the components of this training so you can see where it fits into your own organizations. All right, now, Francis, you can hit the next slide. All right, so these are the activities that we do in this training that you can relate back to your program. We try to build formality. I can't even say that word right now. And so what we do is we take the administrators, key administrators, staff, and adult learners, and we bring them together. And we start off with this basic question: what is student involvement and leadership? And right now, think about that. Take 30 seconds, not even 30 seconds. When them words pop in your head, student involvement, student leadership, what comes into your head? We ask that question, and then we start collecting it from the students. What we learn by student involvement and student leadership, everyone thinks of it differently. So what you're thinking student involvement is, the student or another practitioner does not think the same way you do on what it is. And so to have student involvement and participation in your program, we have to have a dialogue of what you're actually trying to accomplish and what do you think it means. Because some program means is, well, students just showing up. Others program means starting participation as students being on your board. Another one, student participate might be on staff. And so we need to come up with a common understanding of what you're talking about for student involvement. And so this is a fun discussion training. It's really just asking people and collecting that data. And so the students can actually see the ratings being put up on a list, because there's no wrong answer. It's whatever you think student involvement is. And so that's how we get the adult learners feeling comfortable and starting to share, because there's no wrong answer. All right. So then once we have collected that, what we do is, after that is, we're still trying to build up and learn about the program. And this exercise in this training, administrators, directors, you're going to love it. What happens is we ask programs and the student staff, what makes this program special and unique? And then you get an insight what your clients think is so special. They might say the staff is the best in the world, this and that. So you're getting a list of what you think your clients and your employees, the staff down the line, really thinks makes this program better than any other program. And you can use that information in your proposals, in your PR campaigns, or how to reach out. So you're collecting data directly from your students, what is unique about your program. Then the next piece of that is we ask, what would make your program even better? So now you're getting direct input from your students and from your staff, what could be improved in your program. But we ask them what would make it even better. We're not asking what's wrong, what should we do? It's becoming in a positive way of collecting how they make this program. So you're getting direct input again from the clients on what they see that could make this program even better. And then as a director, you now have a list in your hands of all the things that could help make your program better. The next piece about student involvement and leadership is organizational structure. Yes, because again, from our experiences, adult learners will go to a teacher or go to an administrator and say, we should have this in the program. In their mind, they told the person in charge what they think this program needs. It doesn't work that way. But if that's all you know is the one person, right? Or adult learner will go up to, say, a head person of the college or university or the program and say X, but it won't filter down. Or the adult programs want adult learners to get more involved and do things in the programs, and nothing happens. Well, it's because a lot of times we're not teaching structure in which you live in. And what we've learned is a lot of students only know, they'll say, Miss Becky runs everything. They don't even know her title or what she's doing, or how it works. So you can't ask for change if you don't know how things are working. And so we developed an exercise where we take the different students and put them in different groups and say, okay, guys, create a flow chart. How does this program work? Because if you're going to get involved, if you're going to help, you have to understand how it works. So then we have the students in different groups drawing a flow chart, and they'll say, what's a flow chart? Because a lot of times the students never heard a structural flow chart. And so here's an examples. I don't know how your program, every program is set up differently. So draw a picture, don't have to use words. How does this program work? Who reports to who? Then we take the staff and we put them in a group and say, you also draw a flow chart of the organization. And then we take the director and have the director draw a flow chart. What we learned about this exercise working with programs, the staff, low-level staff in a lot of programs have no idea how their own organization is structured. And another piece is missing out of a lot of the staff structures is their funding. Your program operates about how your funding, your structure is based on what kind of money you get. And most program staff people are clueless where the funds come to run their programs. And so this is a great exercise to learn what your clients know about your program and how it works. It's also a good way to teach your own staff. And as administrator, you get to see what's missing. But at the same time, you're also teaching critical thinking skills to the adult learners, because if they learn how your structure works, they can apply these skills to their workplace. They can apply these skills, say if their kids are having trouble in school, they don't always have to now only the teacher. They can understand there's a structure, a hierarchy structure, how that works. So this is a critical thinking skills for the adult learners, but it's really a great tool for the administrators to find out what the people know about their program and how it works. And then this also is a aha for the adult learners about how the layers, because now, okay, so I go to say my teacher, we should have a class on Wednesday. By learning the structure, oh my God, there's 4, 5, 6, 7 more people that have to say yes for us to have a class on Wednesday. And so these are kind of the holes that we're seeing when you want students to get involved in your program. They really don't know how it works. And so this is one of the things you need to think about when you're talking about student involvement in your program. This is a next exercise we do, and administrators too. You need to think about these. These are the 4 basic things that every program in the United States has to do, or their doors will shut down. That is recruitment, retention, resources, and reform. And I asked the students and the teachers together, well, what's recruitment? And they come in from, it's bringing students into your program. It's also bringing staff in. It's everything that you need to get the coming in. Retention, what is that? Why is that so important to your program? How does adult learners affect retention? And resources, again, you don't have resources, your doors are going to close. Money. And then reform, if your program cannot change and adapt to new regulations, to the situation going on in adult learners, your program's also going to close. And so you make adult learners and the staff aware of that, because some programs might not, staff realize you need these 4 components to make a successful program. And so whatever project or whatever the adult learners are doing for your program, they have to be meeting one of these needs, because if not, the program's not going to support it, because the program needs to be doing these 4 things. And so when you think about student involvement leadership, what are they doing? Are they helping recruitment? Is this project going to bring more people in? The things the students are doing, is it going to help the retention rates? You know, you could have a student on staff that meet with other adult learners that are not showing up. Will that have a direct impact on your program bottom line on retention? Yes. If your program's struggling for money, can the adult learners help you bring resources, new resources to your program? I'm going to give an example. One program went through this training, and it was at a housing project, and they were running out of money. And the students didn't know that. So when the students were going through this training, they found out the program needed resources. So what they planned for their project was to do a garage sale. And so the students and the staff bought all the things in their house they don't want anymore, and they did a garage sale, and all the proceeds went to the programs. We talk about retention and recruitment. Another program in Colorado, when I was doing this training, realized the students learned that they had a 200 people waiting list to come into the program, which devastated the students. They couldn't believe that there was 200 more people waiting to come into the program, but they didn't have enough tutors. So the students and program together decided that they're going to do a barbecue in the town square. And so the students, as the project went to businesses and say, hey, we're going to have a barbecue, awareness for the literacy program, can you donate? But what were they doing is they were recruiting and making awareness campaign for the program. Well, they picked up 62 tutors from that event. So whatever your projects adult learners are doing, it needs to meet one of these 4 areas in student involvement. The other thing that we learned and we put in this training, needs versus time. What happens is you got to pick the right program, right project for the students. What we've seen many times is the director comes in or the program person comes in, we need the students to do X, and we're going to have them do X. Well, the students don't see that as a priority. That's not something they want to do, and it doesn't happen. Or the students come to the program and say, we want X. And then the administrator says, that's not something we really need. I don't have the time and the energy to do that. My staff doesn't have to do that. And it doesn't work out for either. So one of the things that we learned is when we went back in that exercise 3, and we asked about what would make this program even better, well, we numbered them. We collect that and we number that for the group. And we do a group exercise with the students and the staff. Needs. Is this something that can wait? Is this something that you should do soon? Or is this something you need to do now? So now we're teaching priority for the students, and we're teaching priority of the needs of the program. So they listed all the things that they want to make improve on the program. So now we help prioritize the needs. So is this something is needed? We're not saying it can't be, is not needed. We're never saying that. What we're saying is it's needed, but it can wait. These are needs that we need to take on soon, but they're not a fire. And then these are the needs that this program needs to take care of right now. So now the students and the staff are in agreement on what is needed in this program. But then just because you have a need in your program doesn't mean it has the energy of the adult learners or the energy of the staff to want to do it. So yes, your boss, the director, can come in and say, you need to do a project on X, Y, and Z. And you as a staff person don't see it, you don't believe in it, you're not going to put your heart in it. It's your job, you'll do it, but you really won't. So the next piece in picking a great project for students getting involved, we have, if you pick this project, I'm not going to help. I'm not going to help. I don't have time. To know that if you pick this project, the students aren't going to help you, the staff really don't want to do it. All right? Even though it might be high up on the need, if nobody wants to do it, it's not going to succeed. The next one is, if you pick this project, I'll help out sometimes. I'll maybe go to a meeting. I might support the program, whatever they need. I'll help if they ask me. And then 3 is, I will do whatever it takes to make it succeed. So now you have the leading students, the leading staff, prioritizing what needs to be improved in that program and working together to pick it. So now you can see, okay, project X or 1 has the most need, but nobody wants to do it. Project 2 has everybody wants to do it. So then that's the project you really should pick for student involvement, because then you have the support of the staff and the adult learners together to accomplish that task. And so now you're all on agreement. It's something is needed. It's something that we all want to do. So that's what you work on. All right. So now I talked a lot at you. This is the time for, if you have any questions of all that I just thrown at you, is for me to answer.
I'm here. I'm sorry. I'm trying to unmute. I'm looking at the chat to see if there are any questions. And we don't have any questions, but something that did resonate with one of our participants is the quote that you had said about, you cannot ask for change if you do not know how things are working. So Tiffany said she wrote that one down. There is one question that just came in, and folks, if you have questions, go ahead and type those now. This one's from Margie. She asks, so how do you help a program get this going?
All right, so right now, this training came out of, I'll give you a little history and then tell you how to get this to happen. The history of this training was, we got some money to develop a national training for student involvement and help programs do it. And we took student leaders, state groups, local groups, and program curriculums, and we locked them away for several days and to develop the shell of this. And then we pilot tested it around the United States. And then we brought some more curriculum specialists in, and we defined it down. And then we start doing this training, and we have research, if you go to our website, about student participation. And so this research, this training works. We have research to prove it. So I just wanted to get that out of the way. So now, Valley was running around doing these trainings around the United States. We don't want to continue to do that. What we've done is we now got the copyrights of this training, and we're in negotiating with some publishers, so then they can print out how to do this training step by step. So Valley doesn't have to run around, you can do it. Now, for example, Virginia, I did several trainings in Virginia, so their training team could see me do this training. So now when the virus is over, Virginia will be ready to do this training for all their programs in their state, instead of me have to coming into Virginia to do it. So right now, I put more money into my grant to do some more trainings. So reach out to me, and maybe I can come in and do that training for you. And then hopefully then the training manuals come out, and so programs in Texas can do their own or work with the training team. So right now, to get this training, contact me.
You know, and there is another question from Elena. This one's from Elena. She says, what is the average time frame of a project?
Say that again.
What is the average time frame of a project?
Okay. So one of the things we learned about student involvement, people would put students on staff or one student involvement, and there was never a beginning and an ending. And what happens is with anything, there's a high and then there's a crash down. They would have students in past student support groups. They would do something and then it would die down. What we learned, and if you go through the training, it says no student project should go over 3 months. No one in their life can commit for over 3 months. But if you're an adult learner leader or a program, yes, you can commit for a couple of weeks or 3 months. And so all projects are based within a 3-month time period to be successful, as we learned. So about 90 days for a project. Now the project can go beyond 90 days, but the commitments and what your task, because you want success. So a project could be a big event in a year, but you want to say, okay, these 90 days, we're accomplishing this on the task. And then people can opt out easily and new students can come in. By doing projects, you can bring new students in and students can step out, or you can introduce new staff and step out. So 90 days, about 3 months is optimal for a project. Anything over that, your commitment levels are going to go up and down on you. And so that's our recommendations that we've learned for student involvement. And again, we're not basing any project around people or positions. You're basing it around projects. So then the adult learners and others can come and go on a right point. Does that make sense to you? It's very.
It makes sense to me, but I'm looking to see if there are comments in relation to that. But there are lots of questions coming in, and you tell me if you can handle some more, or if you'd like to wait.
I got my watch here, watching the time.
Okay, so thank you for answering that. Then there was a question also, what development of the students is done before or while the training is taking place?
What's the development for the adult learner?
Yeah, I meant to
Okay.
say project for the adult learners. So when we're talking about leadership, I'm envisioning skills that they're able to carry with them as opposed to just giving feedback for a project.
Oh, no, they're doing this project with the staff. What you're hearing, the first half of this is actually gathering this information. The second half of this training is actually planning to do the project. And that's what we're going to cover in the next segment is strategic planning. So what you're doing for the adult learners is they're learning all these critical thinking skills. They looked, if you did this, they learned structure. They learned about priorities. And so you're building up their skill sets for the work by going through this training, but doing the projects. So it's transferable skills is what the adult learners are getting out of it.
Okay, and there is another question of what is the ratio of learners to staff?
So what we recommend for this workshop is 4-to-1 ratio, 4 adult learners to 1 practitioner. Because normally when you do trainings, it's more staff than their students. And so in this case, it's more adult learners than staff. And then you get more of student input and there's more camaraderie between that. But what we've rigged this training for, because I have a severe learning disability where I can see a word, take it away and spell it. I don't have recall of letters. So when someone says to me, here, write, my participation just bottomed out. And so we developed this training, keeping learning disabilities in mind, people's reading levels in mind. So regardless of what level your students are on, even if they cannot write or spell, they can fully participate in this training. The areas when we collect data, it will have 1 practitioner with a group of adult learner to do the writing. So no adult learner will be put in an awkward position. Here, write this. And so any level, so regardless of what your student levels is, I've had groups that done translating. I've had other people where it was ESL and they had a translator throughout the things. I was hoping and hoping that I will get someone from New Mexico to actually turn this into a Spanish version. We're not there yet, but we're getting there. So regardless of the student levels, it doesn't matter. And it's a 4-to-1 ratio for practitioners to adult learners is optimal. And you don't have to keep in a staff. Some programs actually have brought board members in and funders into this training so they could hear what's going on and get support for the projects. Just so you keep that in mind. All right, any other questions?
Yes, Marty, and there's a request if you could please give more examples of adult learner projects that you assisted in.
Well, another unique project was also in Colorado, and it was at a meat packing plant that had a literacy program. So that's workplace literacy. And one of the things they realized the students came up with was they want the community to know who they are. They thought the community wasn't really accepting them. At the same time, the program wanted awareness about their literacy program. So the project that they came up was to write a book about their lives and their stories and their experiences. So the students' project was, one, there was writing, there was editing, it was putting together. Well, the mayor of that town was so impressed with it, he ran and took it to the governor. Next thing you know, students from that program is meeting with the governor of Colorado. And so so they got the awareness, it was in the papers, it made all the news. So the programs and the students got what they wanted there. I already gave you 2 examples about the project there and the project, the housing project. And so I'll give you that. So the projects change, meaning the way it works is the students and the staff will pick that project. And it could be from adding a class, like one project they were working on, they picked is that the driveway to the program, the paved road was so bad and so dangerous, and there was no lighting outside, that the students and the staff all felt that that needed to be done. So then the students and the staff together was working, how do we get this driveway paved? And so it was even a maintenance thing, not necessarily, but they all felt that it would help improve the program if there was some outside lights and the driveway didn't have giant potholes into the program. So it's such an array of different projects that are being done. Vermont, when I did their training, they brought regions in, and each region picked a different project to help their region. So it's the sky's the limit on the projects. Any other questions?
No, I think it's more just comments. There was another comment saying that this sounds a lot to me like project-based learning. I use project-based learning in my HSC classes all the time. So lots of really great information that you've been sharing, Marty. So thank you so much.
All right. So one of the areas that we learn is there's an array of people back experience. And with the adult learners, we're all coming in from different experience, different backgrounds. And so a lot of things that we think we know, other people don't know, including with student involvement and students getting involved. As administrators, we just assume certain questions and same thing with the adult learners. So we found these 8 areas that are hot for a lot of people or a lot of adult learners and some programs. Like, who are the deciders? Well, if you're going to have a project, who are the deciders? Who gets to say yes to you? Who gets to say no to you? Oh, you now have a better idea because you now did a structure. So dealing with any decision or any issue in your life, you need to be able to identify the deciders. And then what will cause the deciders to give you what you want? So when you're going in for an ask, if you know the 4 R's and you know recruitment's an issue, you're more likely to get a yes from your program or a job if you know that that's a need that has to be met. Who else wants what you want? And so it's teaching, again, the adult learners to think, well, me going in and asking for something by myself, or I have an issue and going by myself, might not get any. But if I have others that feel the same way as me who want this, it changes the dynamic and you're more likely to get it. And a big thing that a lot of people, number 4, is gatekeeper. What's a gatekeeper? And a lot of times people just look at you and students and staff, The gatekeeper is the person you can open the door or keep it closed from you. And it's not the person in power. It could be the secretary. It could be the teacher. It could be the program manager. It could be your coworker, whatever. So being able to identify that who's a gatekeeper, they're the ones that can open it or close it for you. What situation or factor you need to take into account. So one of the projects someone was working on, they were planning to do a PR campaign and put banners about their program on the buses in their community about the program. And they were developing this and working on this, and then realized the bus company was on strike right now. So is that a good time to ask the bus company for some banner space on the side of the buses? No. What resources do you need? And we're going to be covering that more very shortly. So you're teaching the students about what resources you need. Number 7 is, what do you want? And so we teach adult learners in a program, we all need to be speaking in the same language about the program, and we teach about the elevator ride. And we're amazed at how many people never heard about the elevator ride, where you got Mr. Moneybag in the elevator, you got till they get up to the right floor, and then they walk out. And you have to say who you are, what do you want, what do you need within that time period, and to be able to get your ask done in that short period of time. And then how do you get the answer? What do you answer to people who oppose you? Because people are going to oppose you. So if you're able to respond back, here's what, and counteract them. All right. Another thing for programs, what we do in this exercise, we have the adult learners, majority and with a staff person, and we have a sheet for them to fill out together. What are your skills? See, most programs sees adult learners what skills they don't have, and you're trying to teach them. But a lot of students have a lot of skills. So what we're trying to do here is collect the skills of the students and the staff in that room. And so they're building up a list of skills. And it's amazing for like, oh, I didn't know you had that skill. You're a fantastic artist. Oh, you're a musician. You're a baker. You're whatever. Wow, I didn't know you could do all that. But it also builds camaraderie. Oh, I make quilts too. And so you're sharing, it's building community, but as a director, you're collecting skills that your adult learners have. Meanwhile, the next exercise is what resources you have. And this, look, what do you mean resources? Skills is you have a driver license. A resource, you own a car. So we start asking students, like, what resources do you have that would help this project and would help the program? And we say anything with the staff. And then you start realizing the connections the students have within your community. I did this one training, and the guy said, my brother's the mayor of the town. Is that a resource? Yes, it is. Another person had their daughter as a CEO of some company. Another person says, well, we own a produce store. So there's all these connections to the community and resources. So if your program's hurting. So now the students and the staff are collecting the resources they have. As a director, what we recommending you do every time you do this training is collect them resources, because you don't know where the connections may happen for your program by them connections. Because we rarely ever collect the resources that the adult learners have. To pick the project and to work on the project, now they're learning strategic planning. Because if you do any planning, you have to build up your resources. You have to know what skills you have. So then we say, if you're going to pick this project, which you already picked out of the need, what are 5 barriers? What would keep the program from succeeding, this project from succeeding? It could be money, it could be time, it could be so-and-so will never say yes, or whatever the 5 barriers are. And this is transferable for your life. I have a daycare issue. What are your barriers? I got to get my kid to I can't get out of work until 6 o'clock. Daycare wants my kids out by 5. That's the barriers. And so you can put all your barriers in. But if you collect your resources and skills, what we say, okay, group, you have 5 barriers, and each group makes out 5 barriers for making this polish happen. You then go through your skills and your resources. How do you get over the barriers, under the barriers, or through the barriers, and write them on this other side as a group? And without the group really even knowing it, they just develop this strategic plan of how to accomplish the project, laying it right out for them. And then they go, aha, we could do this. Oh, we can accomplish this because they just laid out, they just spent the time strategically planning how to do a project and ownership of it. So then, now they're feeling good. There has to be ownership. If there's not ownership, it's not going to happen. And so the next piece of this is, what is your project? And so now they're stating it. And what we're trying to do is they're putting in writing and also learning how to say it in the elevator speech. And it builds up the confidence and the ownership of it. And so the naming of it is really important. You need to be all speaking the same language or calling it the same thing, and it builds camaraderie and ownership of the project. So next, in the training, we have timelines and so forth, which you already answered that question. The first thing is, no project should really run more than 3 months. And so we have a timeline, and we work with the students and the staff. What do you need to do first? What's going to need to happen second? What's the next steps? Who's going to do what? So the time you walk out of the training, you have a written strategic plan of what's going to happen for the next 3 months. And so even though value goes home after this training, the students and the staff knows what's going to happen. And I do not lead that meeting until we have a specific date that they're going to meet again and what they're specifically going to do at that next first meeting. And then after that, they go on. They go on their own. Okay, next one. So how does this program benefit your program? Again, and how does it help the adult learners? As you saw, look at all the different skills that you've seen that the adult learners get at. Look at all the resources that you didn't have before for your program. You're actually getting the adult learners to help you to do something that you have to get done anyway in your program. And it can help your retention rate, recruitment, resources, or reform for your programs in that capacity. So that's how the adult learner benefits from this, because all these critical skills they're getting are transferable to the workplace. You can put on your resume that you helped plan X. You can help put on your resume that we did X. And that's also helps benefits the adult learners. And all these critical thinking skills that they learn are transferable to their lives and to their workplace. And we lined up this training that meets up with a lot of the Viola requirements about student participation in your programs. And so there's the win-win for the program and the adult learners. So then there's another piece in the training, and I didn't put out, it just said, we have a list of all the things that, if you're going to do this, are you going the right way? Is this right? Do you have all the resources you need to make this project work? Do you have the skills that you need to make this project work? Is the energy there? And then, so it's a way to review what you've done before you start doing it, because you want to succeed. Is this project too big? Do you need to scale it down? Are you missing something that makes it succeed? And so we go over that at the very end of the training, just to make sure they have it all lined up and ready to go and that they can accomplish it, because you want success. And now we're back to any more questions.
Okay, so I am looking here in the chat to see some of the responses. And from Elena Madrid, she is from the Texas Workforce Commission. You mentioned WIOA. And so part of her charge is to ensure that programs are following that. And so she wrote a comment saying, tell us more about how Value USA will be partnering with COABE and the ambassador training they offer for student advocacy.
All right, while we're not directly partnering with them, we have gone through COABE's training in the past, but we've been doing this Hill trainings and briefings for years now before that. But what we're doing with the partnership with COABE is that Value is going to be doing a training on advocacy, what adult learners face. So, and I'm doing it in New Mexico to make sure I have all the kinks out before I do it nationally with COABE. And what we're doing there is we're going to be showing adult learners and administrators what adult learners face when they become advocates for our field. Look at our field. How many years have we been doing adult literacy? Over 50 years? Where's adult learners' voices? why aren't adult learners speaking out about our field? We don't realize all the things adult learners face when they become advocates for our field. Yeah, everyone thinks, oh, it'd be great to be an advocate. People are going to pat you back and say, you did a great job. You learned a lot. But there's a lot of things that programs aren't aware that happens to adult learners when they become advocates. And adult learners need to know about that. I'll give you a couple little examples. So you become an advocate. The program said, grabs Mary, or grabs John, or grab whomever and say, come speak for us. And the student's like, okay, I'll do that. That'd be great. But then the paper name and face goes in the paper. Are they ready for the reaction they're going to get? Because people might be patting them on the back, but their family members might get really pissed off at them because their information went out publicly. Or their employer didn't know that they were in a literacy program, and all of a sudden they just lost their job or got demoted, because not all employers want their stuff out there. So, and then people will laugh at them. Their neighbors that they don't like and they've been feuding with for a couple of years now has something on them to start teasing them about. We don't think about all the things that adult learners are going to be facing when they become advocates. And so I would hear so-and-so was a great leader for our program. She was wonderful. She's doing all kinds of stuff. And then she spoke out for us on it, and then she just stopped showing up. We don't know why. She just stopped showing up. Well, maybe because she got a lot of pushback from family member or community or someone else about being advocates for adult literacy. And so that workshop that we're doing in partnership with COABE is to expose that. It's not the ambassador training. COABE's ambassador training is theirs, and it teaches about Hill visits. This training and what Value does is much more in depth. It's a different concept of it. So that's the difference on that. And this training, if you're Riola, if you look at the requirements for Riola, we lined this training up to meet Riola requirements. And so I want to share that. Any other questions?
Yes. So Margie is saying that she was looking on the website, and where exactly is the data that you refer to about project successes and long-term effects on the learners and the programs?
On our website, I have Francis Worksite student sitting right next to me. It's on our website, the research center, the research projects from Margaret.
Oh, it's on the project.
It's on the projects. So if you go to our website and you have the bars across the top under projects, you can see all the research projects that we have done. And then you can see what they are and read the data on them. Hope that answers that question.
Okay, well, I'm checking the chat, and so I appreciate that. I don't see anything else in relation to that, but I'm sure to ask you. So no, you're good to go.
So we do have a few more minutes. So if anyone else does have any other more questions, I can share a little bit more about what's going to happen immediately. So we're doing the Hill briefing. We're partnered with the National Coalition for Literacy and Pro Literacy to educate Congress. And then we are working with with COABE to do a webinar across the country on advocacy. And then we're going to ask local programs, some certain local programs who have key legislators, and we're going to have adult learners and local programs meet with key legislators. We're going to host the Zoom meetings with them. And then we're going to have a big award ceremony where we're going to be giving out an award called We See You. And we're going to give out awards to a couple of legislators and programs that we see that are making a difference to adult learners. The We See award comes out because we as adult learners don't think society see us, don't see the people who are struggling with reading and writing. But there's programs that are helping us, there's people that are helping us, and we want them to know that we, the adult learners, are seeing them. And so we will be giving out an award called We See You Award. And that also will happen in mid-May. That's not up on our website yet because we're lining up the award winners before we announce it to the world. And so that's all falling under our Leadership Institute. I say that we do every other year, but we can't meet face-to-face, so we're doing it all online. Anybody else has any other questions?
Yes, so I went to the website and I went to the research tab, and I see information on research, but do you have information on the actual projects you've done with programs?
No, so what we did is, there's been so many, and so I did not collect it. What happened is, for the research, we picked a certain amount of programs and we evaluate them on the state levels. And then Value went in and did this training for half of them. And then the researcher came back and reevaluated them 9 months later after the training and saw what was the impact on the students and on the programs and their stuff. And that's what's in there under that research. And then you see we have a couple other research why adult learners are not participating in adult ed programs. And so we got a grant, and so we had our researcher do that research for us, why students aren't coming to adult ed programs when they can. And that's also on our website.
Okay. Would you happen to have any examples of programs in Texas that you've worked with this particular training?
I will get back to you. I did.
No, we didn't.
What? You have it? You have it on our website? Yeah. You have the list of Texas.
If you go to our training and then like under leadership training, you'll see like we have a couple quotes from organizations that we worked with in the past. There is this one organization that was in Texas called Each One Teach One, and they gave a review based on like our training, and you can read what they said under that tab.
So Marty, if you could please repeat what Francis was saying. He was very low. I heard something about each one teach one. But if you can restate that, Marty? Or Francis, if you could get closer to the mic.
What's the name of the program? Each One Teach One literacy program, and I believe it was in San Antonio. They went through our training and they've written up what they learned and what they liked about it, but it's under training. And then you click the leadership training and it's there.
We do have a comment from Margie, and she says, what I really like with these projects are that they're real and a real value to our programs as well as the learners. So an emphatic comment there. So thank you for that, Margie. I appreciate it.
Margie, that's the key for successful student involvement, is picking the project. Again, if the administrators say, this is what we're going to do, and the students aren't, it's going to fail. And if the students say, this is the project we want to do, but the staff doesn't see the value or the energy in it, it's going to fail. And so what you want is success. By using these tools to pick the project that staff and student want to do, then you stand a better chance of succeeding.
Okay, and you have about another minute. Are there any final thoughts that you'd like to share, Marty?
When you think of student involvement, it's looking at your students in a different way. It really is a mindset that I've been dealing with our field for the last 30 years. I just realized I've been working in this field for almost 30 years. Look at the students not as those who are in need. They need my help. I'm helping them. Flip the tables. The students can help me. The students can help me do my job better. What resources can they bring to bear for our programs? When you flip that table, it changes the whole mindset of your program when you see your students as equals, not as I'm helping them, bringing them up. But when you see it, wow, my students can bring money into my program. The students can bring more students into my program. The students, I can't, I would love to do a newsletter, but you know how much work it is to do a newsletter? Wow. Why don't you turn it over to your students and let them be editors, let them be reporters and collect the data so they can interview. They're learning about the program, but they become the ambassadors for you. So turn the tables around on your thinking when you're thinking about students. They are a vast resource to help you to do your job better. And if you can do that, watch the changes in your program. You'll just see changes when you have that mindset. And so that's my last thought, my takeaway for you.
Well, thank you so much, Marty, for a wonderful session. I could see how engaged our audience was. They had lots of questions about the contributions that adult learners bring, and certainly for this organization that is comprised of adult learners, no less. So it is just a wonderful organization. Thank you so much for spending a portion of your day explaining this to us. If anyone has additional questions down the line, of course, you could always reach out to Marty. And but funny thing is that when I was communicating with Marty, if you write to the contact in at valueusa.org, it goes straight to Marty. So that's his personal email. So thank you so much, Marty. Appreciate you spending time with us. And thank you to everyone for spending your Monday afternoon with us. We hope you have a wonderful, pleasant, and safe day.